Welcome to another episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing, a podcast where I interview young people about their journeys in the manufacturing industry. For this episode, I welcome Bryce Walters, a 26-year-old manufacturing robotics engineer for Lockheed Martin Missiles and Fire Control. Walters' interest in manufacturing began as he grew up with an engineer mother and an air traffic controller father. His first job in the industry was an internship with Indiana Precision Grinding, and during his sophomore year at Purdue University, he had the option to intern with a heavy equipment manufacturer near school or with Lockheed Martin MFC in Orlando. Walters decided to go with Lockheed Martin, and after graduating in 2020 with a degree in mechanical engineering technology, he returned to the aerospace company where he currently designs, integrates, and sustains automated systems. Walters was also recently recognized by SME as one of the 2023 30 Under 30 honorees. Before we get started, we would like to thank our sponsor, RedZone. Empower your front line while growing your bottom line. QAD RedZone is the #1 connected workforce solution for plants of all sizes. It's time for manufacturers to start engaging their frontline employees, resulting in reduced turnover and increased productivity. RedZone enables you to stop analyzing yesterday and start solving today's problems now. For the first time ever, production, maintenance, and quality teams are following the same playbook. Before we hear from Walters, please like and share this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please get in touch with me, Nolan Beilstein, at nolan@ien.com. Well, Bryce, thank you for joining Gen Z in Manufacturing. My first question was, how did your parents' careers influence your decision to pursue a career in manufacturing?
Yeah, so my mom and I actually have the same degree, both degrees in mechanical engineering technology from Purdue University. And my dad is a retired air traffic controller. And so growing up, the conversation around the dinner table was very much surrounded engineering, how things worked, airplanes, what happened at my dad's day at work, and what my mom learned in college or at her job. My wife has noticed it when I brought her around, and she's like, the conversation in your family is different than mine. And so it's definitely something that I would say that I'm a product of my environment in that regard.
So you're explaining to me that when you were in college, you had a decision for internships, and you ultimately chose Lockheed Martin. What went into your decision when you had that choice between interning with a heavy equipment manufacturer and Lockheed Martin?
You know, I knew I was more interested in turbine engines than, just your general reciprocating engines. I knew that was just of more interest to me. Some people have different preferences. But for me, the appeal to work with, more high-end, expensive technologies, whereas something that we're trying to sell to a consumer versus something we're trying to sell to a government. Just the price tag's a lot different. And so the technology is a lot different. And so I think because of that, I ended up choosing to intern with Lockheed instead of the heavy equipment manufacturer. And sometimes I still wonder if that really would have made a difference here or there. Because to be honest, working in a place where we manufacture very high level technologies, it probably, I would say the pizzazz wore off in 6 months since being there full time. Because, sometimes when you just get into the nitty gritty of, we got to keep this tolerance, you just get fed up and you're like, I wish I was making solo cups instead. But I guess for me, I haven't regretted the decision by any means. And I would definitely say that it's challenged me to grow in thinking outside the box, just because aerospace manufacturing is generally going to end up being higher mix, lower volume as compared to heavy equipment or something like that.
What about Lockheed made you want to work there full time after your internship?
Yeah, so my first internship with Lockheed Martin was in Orlando, Florida. I really, really enjoyed the internship. I enjoyed working for the company. I felt well supported by my leaders, really set up with good skills that summer. But I didn't find Orlando, Florida, a place I love to be. At the end of the summer, they have your review session, and it's kind of where you make your pitch of like, hey, take me back next summer, take me back full time, kind of whatever your situation is. And I was honest with them. I said, I really enjoyed working this job. I really enjoyed my time here at the company itself, but I don't see myself in Orlando, Florida for a long time. Just, when it came to like interests I had in my personal life, it just wasn't the spot for me. And so we had a sister site, which is now the site that I work at in Grand Prairie, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. And I asked them, could I potentially get a return offer to Dallas/Grand Prairie? And they obliged. And that summer that I worked in Grand Prairie as an intern, so that was before my senior year of college, was even better than the one in Orlando. My leadership was awesome again. It felt like I was given the opportunity to take a lot of risks and actually design something for myself. I worked in tool design that summer. So I got a good taste of design work targeted towards manufacturing, which was really beneficial and just to my skill set in general in problem solving. And so at the end of that summer, I was definitely chomping at the bit to get a return offer, and thankfully I did.
You mentioned that you're pretty honest with them and said you didn't want to live in Orlando. Did you ever feel like that was a risk in and of itself, that like might not be inviting you back at all, or did you feel like it was worth it to take that chance?
I felt like it was worth it to take the chance. Throughout the internship, people have been, or I guess kind of the leadership surrounding the internship itself, maybe not so much of like my direct report, but like the HR folks surrounding the internship from the beginning were, just saying, Lockheed Martin's a global company. If you decide that you want to work in Colorado, we can probably work with that, just be honest with your manager. And so it did feel like a little risky to ask that, because I mean, personally, I hadn't really, I'm a college kid. Like, what do I, in like my mind, really have to offer Lockheed Martin, this, the largest defense contractor in the world or whatever? But I really felt at peace about being honest and telling them the truth. And I don't know, I just think that's generally something that like I see personally in my own life, is when I tell the truth, things seem to pan out.
Do you think that's a mindset among Gen Z? I mean, I think traditionally it was kind of, do whatever the job asks of you, go where you're told. But now, I mean, the story you just explained, do you feel like most of your colleagues your age have that same mindset?
I would say that's probably true. I see this a lot in my little brother. I would kind of coin myself as a zillennial, being 26. I'm really at like kind of the oldest category in Gen Z. And so I see like myself as like kind of Gen Z, but my little brother is so Gen Z. Like he does all the Gen Z things, wears the Gen Z clothes, says the Gen Z phrases. I learned what mid was the other day, and that kind of made me feel old. Anyways, my little brother, I see that in him a lot. And other Gen Z folks that I've interacted with, they're honest, and they don't, I don't know, I think Gen Z just in general has an understanding that life is short, and that, I don't know, I think kind of the situation with why a lot of people would go along with the, just do what you're told, head down, go forward. It's kind of like this mentality that your brain or the rest of your body is really just to carry around your brain, which doesn't really pay mind much to emotions and I guess you could say the whole person of how you're feeling. And I feel like Gen Z really has a more holistic approach to personhood, especially in relation to their career.
How has your role evolved at Lockheed Martin, and what are your current duties?
Yeah, so I started out as a shop floor manufacturing engineer. supporting mechanical assembly. But I think at the end of the day, if you were to summarize that all into one thing, it's get good product out the door on schedule, right? It's like we have to supply to the customer. And so from there, I moved into a similar role, basically the same responsibilities, but in a machining shop on site. But then I was in that role as a shop floor ME for maybe a year and a half total. And then I had the opportunity to work, or I guess to move over to a new team at our site. We call it ManTech for short, but it's manufacturing technology team. It's just young guys like me who are interested in designing and integrating and sustaining automated manufacturing systems. Our team primarily focuses, obviously, we start with the parts where we have the most volume. But I guess with that in mind, knowing that part, if the government decides they don't want that anymore, we have to figure out something else to put that automation to use on. So if we buy a robot arm and some peripherals with it, we're always thinking, how could I repurpose this for another part if this one, the government decides they don't want anymore. And so it's very agile. We have to be very agile. And it's also, I don't know, I would say that's where a lot of the challenge comes in, is because a lot of the automated systems that we're integrating really aren't, I guess a lot of the automation we're doing hasn't been done before, at least for the products that we're doing them on. So it's very exciting, and I enjoy this position a lot more rather than, I don't know, it felt like in the initial role, not from like a quality standpoint, but it felt like you were kind of doing the least amount possible just to get it out of the door, meeting the engineering requirement. And so it was throw as much time and labor as the thing as possible, or as required. We need it now. We don't need to do it like the most efficient way possible. We need it now. Whereas now, I get to think some more lean thoughts, which is really great. I really enjoy that.
When you think back during your internships with Lockheed, what about how they ran that intern program made you most prepared for your current career?
Yeah, I would say it had to be the level to which they entrusted us to take risks. Obviously, like they didn't like put us in a situation where if we messed up, like we were going to send a bad missile out the door. It wasn't anything like that, but it was like they gave us real responsibility. But I would say the first place that I got a lot of responsibility in an internship was actually my first internship out of college. It was with a small grind shop in Indy called Indiana Precision Grinding. I had no experience whatsoever. I just completed freshman level courses at Purdue, which are basically like, can you do math at an engineering level? Can you do physics at an engineering level? There's really no like actual like practicals that you learn, especially for like a machine shop environment. And so they were very patient with me at Indiana Precision Grinding. And that was the place that I learned to really reason hard, and the first place that actually entrusted me to take risks. But I would say if like to a young person who is looking for internships, there's absolutely no shame in going for an internship with a really small company, because more likely than not, the smaller the company, the more likely they are to let you take risks during your internship. And letting you take risks actually really builds your skill set quite a bit.
When you talk to other people your age that went into similar fields as you, what are some traditional characteristics of manufacturing internships that you think need to be better changed to suit Gen Z workers?
Yeah, I think some things that I've seen some like, I've seen internships where they just basically were making PowerPoints all summer. It's just like no one wants to do that. No one learns by doing that. No one gets any skills by doing that. I don't know, like you don't learn the business by making PowerPoints all summer. Like I've seen people in like quality internships, and they'll, just have the quality intern, hey, here's this process on a sheet of paper. Can you just make a PowerPoint with some pictures to like outline this to like a new hire inspector or something like that? You're just like, golly, man, that no one benefits from that. The intern spends 3 months making a PowerPoint that could have been done in 2 weeks, and especially like in internships where you present at the end of the summer, if like that's the work you were given, like there's not a whole lot to feel proud of in that. And I feel like that's putting the intern at a real disadvantage career wise. And so I would say, yeah, I that's so frustrating to me, is when interns aren't given responsibilities that challenge them, because no one's challenged by making PowerPoints, at least in manufacturing industry. Anyways.
How would you go about being in charge of a Gen Z intern trying to get into your field?
If you can give the intern one big project or maybe two big projects, and then, like just some like small low hanging things to like keep themselves busy, because sometimes, when you have a big project, there's roadblocks and you can work yourself up to a point, but you got to wait till something gets delivered. And that's going to be 2 weeks. Somebody sits still for 2 weeks. You need something else to do. I guess for my internship in tool design at Lockheed, I was given the responsibility to modify a material handling tool. There was some issues with it that the operator said, it's unsafe for this reason. And so I was given the opportunity to like fix the tool, that someone else had designed, and they did a fine job. But honestly, sometimes you just don't know operator preference. And so I guess in the end, it required me to work with the tool design team in-house. Some guys who just had designed some amazing equipment. And they were able to give me pointers, and then also I had to interface with operators and say, hey, this is the current design. I noticed, we saw this request to modify this tool. What do you actually want? Like, what do you actually need? And so teaching, I guess, giving the interns the opportunity to interface not only with just really, really wise and intelligent engineers, but also giving them the opportunity to interface with really, really seasoned operators, people who know what it's like on the floor day in and day out. That skill is so invaluable. And so those two together really, I guess, empowered me over the summer and really improved my ability to design well.
A common thing I'm hearing among people that have been on this podcast is that they're looking for a sense of purpose at their jobs. Do you get this sense of purpose full time at Lockheed Martin?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it's really, like, when I started out, we weren't, I guess Lockheed Martin specifically, we weren't really supplying any of our materials, or none of our materials were being used in any conflicts worldwide. But since the conflicts in Ukraine and Israel have risen, now my business area specifically, they're using material from, or both conflicts are using material that we manufacture at Lockheed Martin. And so it's definitely something that you look at and realize, like, the stuff I make matters to people. And I guess this is kind of where I would say a lot of what I do differentiates from working with the heavy equipment manufacturer. Heavy equipment manufacturer, I was driving down the interstate in Indiana the other day around Christmas time, and I saw a really, really big dump truck at a coal mine. I was like, wow, that's such a big dump truck. That helps keep the lights on. It makes power for everyone's houses. That's awesome. But working at Lockheed Martin, it's different. It's, wow, that interceptor missile that we made, it kept these innocent people from dying. That's really crazy. That's amazing that I have the opportunity to do something like that. So I would definitely say that's where, or I guess that's where and how the meaning in my job comes. I guess on a grand scheme, but I think day to day, sometimes it's hard for me to really connect with that. The work that I do being meaningful at somewhere I've never been before. I think at the end of the day, for me, I guess from day to day, the meaning really comes in interactions with my coworkers, and being kind and loving to them, and hearing how they're doing and how life is going for them, and what's going on with their family, what they did last weekend, and just being a good friend and a good coworker. I think that's where a lot more of, I guess, what I feel on a day to day, I guess I see it more there than I do with conflicts that are actually happening overseas that are using our products.
Thank you for watching this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. Please make sure to like and share the episode. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please contact Nolan Beilstein at nolan@ien.com.